Welcome. First military history episode that I'm going to do on my channel. So today we're going to be discussing the F6F-5 Hellcat versus the F4F4 Wildcat. So I'm pulling up my sources now, Wikipedia for the Grumman F6F Hellcat. Now, the Grumman F6F is an American carrier-based fighter aircraft. Also a strike aircraft due to the large variety of weapons that could be equipped on it. Weapons like these included a Mark 13 torpedo, HVAR rockets. HVAR stands for High Velocity Aircraft Rockets. These were unguided rockets. And two 500-pound bombs. It did have a good loadout, we'll say that, for the payload. This was a very destructive aircraft towards Japanese forces, we'll say that also. And this was created to replace the F4F Wildcat, which we'll say is its little brother. It wasn't the Hellcat. Hellcat was the big brother, because it was much stronger. So, and it was also created to counter the Japanese Mitsubishi A6M0. That was a dominant fighter in the Pacific. And it actually outran the Vought F4U Corsair. And the Corsair is a pretty fast aircraft. However, the F6F Hellcat outran that, which is good for fighting purposes. And this aircraft was powered by a Pratt & Whitney R-2800 double wasp engine. It was a very strong engine, and it was able to pull the aircraft off the deck of the aircraft carrier, and it is a very large aircraft. If you've seen in museums at NAS Pensacola, near where I live, they have an F6F Hellcat in the museum. I haven't been there since the pandemic because they've been closed, but as soon as they open, I'm going to go there and do a video just for you guys of me up over by the Hellcat. And all the planes, actually. I'll probably recognize every single one. But anyway, back to this. It was an entirely new design instead of the Wildcat. And they look a little different to the appearance. Like, if you look here, this is the Wildcat. It's a little more round and kind of chunky. But you look at the Hellcat, that's more intimidating, slim and strong, and it looks like it can really pack a punch on enemy aircraft and vessels and ground targets. And a total of 12,275 aircraft, the F6F-5s, were built. This entered service in 1942 because after Pearl Harbor they were like, oh man, we can't counter the Zero with an F4F Hellcat, we need something else. That's where they got the F6F-5 Hellcat. There were many variants of this aircraft though. There was the F6F-3, F6F-5, F6F-5N, and a couple others. So they also equipped it with a radar, making it a night fighter. A night fighter is an aircraft that can be used to fight at night, and it is equipped with a radar most of the time. And the radar is very helpful at night because you can't really see anything except the inside of the cockpit, really. So, therefore, the aircraft had the radar for the night fighter variant. That was a good modification for it. This was so much of a good aircraft that even other countries bought the aircraft. For example, Great Britain bought the F6F-5 Hellcat. This one was the F6F-5. However, it was in Great Britain. They called it the Hellcat Mark 1 and 2. So this was because of the Lend-Lease Act. We leased military equipment to allying countries. This was before the war even started. With the U.S., I mean. But 1941, we all know Pearl Harbor happened. That was a trigger for the United States. We were like, we're going to get back into Japan, just watch this. So, therefore, that's why we entered the war. But that's the Lend-Lease Act was passed before we entered the war. However, the Hellcat was not built until we were in the middle of the war. So therefore we lent them some during the war. This could be a very good aircraft for almost anything. Another country that bought the F6F-5 Hellcat was France. They bought it. I haven't done much research on France buying the aircraft, but they didn't rename it. They just had F6F-5 Hellcat. That's what it was. So anyway, this was a deck-based fighter, which means it's capable of landing on an aircraft carrier. It has the tail hook that you need, and it also has the strong landing gear. So therefore, that made it perfect for aircraft carrier landings. So yeah, the Great Britain's version was the Hellcat F Mark 1, 1944 in January. So, but most of these did contain a radar, though. The night variants. Oh yeah, France did buy them. Yes, I was right. So, and then they had them on aircraft carriers around the world, allied aircraft carriers. Now, yep, they have one in NAS Pensacola. That's perfect. I'm gonna go there as soon as they open that museum. Can't wait. Oh, they have one at the Cradle of Aviation Museum in New York. I remember going there when I was a little kid, when I was in New York. I lived there. Anyway, back to the topic. The guns on it were 6.50 caliber M2 Browning machine guns. Of course, it had to have machine guns because it was a fighter. That's obvious. And then two 79 caliber cannons on certain variants. 6 5-inch HVAR rockets. High velocity aircraft rockets. 2 11 3/4 inch is Tiny Tim rockets. These guys, they are an air-to-ground rocket used near the end of the Second World War. And it was anti-ship rockets, is basically what they were. Those things were like the size of a small missile today, if you ever seen those. So, you can also carry 4,000 pounds of bombs on this thing, which is amazing. And you get a Mark 13 torpedo on that. So that is also another perk to it. So that pretty much rounds up the F6F-5 Hellcat in one video. Thank you for stopping by, and I'm going to do more of these videos.